tide. When the storm gets rough, we ain't gonna hide. Popping Guinness swilling, but it won't touch me. Only love around, that's how it's gonna be. Keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track. In the city lights where dreams collide, we hustle through the night, fire in our stride. Whispers in the dark can't dim my glow. With rhythm in my soul, I'm ready for the show. We break the chains, rewrite the rules. In this concrete jungle where nobody's fools. Unity sings louder than the lies they scheme. In the heart of the struggle, we dare to dream. Keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track.
Another Queen Amadaya production.
Haze on the corner, they talking real loud. Spreading no light, trying to bring me down. Enemies lurking, but I won't back away. Got a vision in my mind, I'm here to stay. Put my crew beside me, we rise like a tide. When the storm gets rough, we ain't gonna hide. Popping Guinness swilling, but it won't touch me. Only love around, that's how it's gonna be. Keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track. In the city lights where dreams collide, we hustle through the night, fire in our stride. Whispers in the dark can't dim my glow. With rhythm in my soul, I'm ready for the show. We break the chains, rewrite the rules. In this concrete jungle where nobody's fools. Unity sings louder than the lies they scheme. In the heart of the struggle, we dare to dream. Keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track. Haze on the corner, they talking real loud. Spreading no light, trying to bring me down. Enemies lurking, but I won't back away. Got a vision in my mind, I'm here to stay. Put my crew beside me, we rise like a tide. When the storm gets rough, we ain't gonna hide. Popping Guinness swilling, but it won't touch me. Only love around, that's how it's gonna be. Keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track. In the city lights where
Right. Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning back in once again to the original Queen AmadayASakur show. I'm your host, Queen AmadayASakur, and this is your Sunday morning wake up call. So as you're coming in, please feel free to go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Be sure to click that notification bell and click the word all so you're notified each time Queen Goddess goes live. Okay, so before we get into these receipts that are clear and nefarious, let's have a brief word from my sponsor at 12 Tribes.
Do not buy 12 Tribes on Earth hair growth oil and hair magic elixir unless you want super healthy, gorgeous hair that grows. They have a whole line of amazing hair growth products, including hair growth leave-in conditioner spray, hair growth shampoo, hair growth spray, and hair growth butter. I'm starting to sense a theme here. They include quality natural ingredients. They smell amazing, and you can see the results for yourself. So if you're looking for healthy hair growth for your natural or relaxed hair, try 12 Tribes on Earth today.
All right, so with that all being said, don't forget you can purchase 12 Tribes hair oil at Etsy.com. Just look for Lisa Crafts. You can also find it at Walmart.com. And don't forget that she sells a beard oil. Okay, so with that all being said, let's get into it. All right. Hello, Soul Sister. Bronze Flat Power God is in the building. Okay, Pearly, G from the land. All right, let's get into it. 504 Nola. Okay, Deronda. So shout out to all of my loyal royals and everyone tuned into the Queen, and a big shout out to my moderators because you all know they've been putting in work. I see you, we the people, pretty wings. Okay, that crazy be Aries. All right, so let's go ahead and get into it. Hey, Mel. Okay, so first things first. They're saying that, and I think Mel actually said this in the chat yesterday because I chuckled to myself. They're saying that the peace deal, the peace agreement, okay, that Trump proposed to Ukraine was actually produced by Russia and not Trump. Okay, not Trump's administration. And, of course, they're going to deny it. So let's talk about it. Okay, State Department denies claims about Russian origins of Trump's Ukraine peace plan. I find it also interesting. And then also Trump's trying to make nice with Mamdani all of a sudden, which I also thought was interesting. Okay, so anyway, State Department officials on Saturday aggressively pushed back on claims shared by some senators that President Trump's 28-point plan for peace in Ukraine originated from Russia and is not the administration's position. Now, earlier on Saturday, PBS NewsHour correspondent Nick Schifrin reported comments from Senators Mike Rounds and Angus King, saying that where the lawmakers claimed that Secretary of State Marco Rubio told them the plan was not even authored by the United States. Isn't that something? Y'all hear it? Okay. But rather received from an intermediary and is essentially the wish list of the Russians. Honey, not the wish list. Do you all hear this? Do you all hear this? I find it all so nefarious. But you know what? This is exactly what I expected. Okay, this is because didn't I tell you all yesterday that this was absolutely going to benefit Putin and not Zelensky, and that it would likely make Zelensky look like the coward that I know that he is? And then they said that this will be humiliating for him. Okay? That he can either, be humiliated and try to keep the U.S. as his allies, or he can just turn it down. I find it also interesting. Okay? Anyway, let's continue. Because Trump is something else. Okay, not a wish list for the Russians. Now, the peace proposal was authored by the U.S., Rubio said in a Saturday night post on the social media platform X. It is offered as a strong framework for ongoing negotiations. It is based on input from the Russian side, but it is also based on previous and ongoing input from Ukraine. Don't try to lie and walk it back now, honey. You already told. You already dry snitched and said that it was produced by Russia. Now he wants to try to walk it back. Now, responding to one of Schifrin's posts, which shared a comment from King saying the plan is not of the administration's position, State Department principal deputy spokesperson Tommy Pigott wrote on X that the claim is blatantly false. As Secretary Rubio and the entire administration has consistently maintained, this plan was authored by the United States, okay, with input from both the Russians and Ukrainians. Nobody believes you, okay? Nobody believes you. Pigott? And what kind of name is that anyway? Pigott. So anyway, a senior U.S. official also told News Nation, the Hill's sister network, that the proposal has always been a hopeful start to continued negotiations and eventually the signing of a final peace agreement once and for all. It was previously reported that the plan was negotiated by Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and Kirill Dmitriev, a top ally of Russian President Vladimir Putin. Only a few senior Ukrainian officials were briefed, according to Axios, which first reported the plan. Now, Kiev allies in Congress were seemingly caught off guard when it was leaked, they say. Some Republican leaders, including Senators Mitch McConnell and Roger Wicker, have panned the proposal, saying it would reward Putin nearly 4 years after Russia invaded Ukraine. Okay, didn't I tell y'all it was going to reward Putin? The plan includes a provision that would place the regions of Crimea, Luhansk, and Donetsk under de facto Russian control to be recognized by the United States, among other likely non-starters for Ukraine. There are also no major concessions required from Russia. Apart from directing $100 billion in frozen Russian assets to Ukraine's reconstruction. Now, former National Security Advisor John Bolton echoed the Republican lawmakers' comments, arguing the plan was written by the Russian point of view. The Russians couldn't have written a better treaty themselves. This is what he said during an appearance on News Nation's One Balance with Leland Viterht on Friday. I think it's selling out Ukraine. Now, Vice President Vance has defended the plan amid the blowback, saying in a post on X that peace won't be made by failed diplomats or politicians living in a fantasy land. Every criticism of the peace framework the administration is working on either misunderstands the framework or misstates some critical reality on the ground. This is what Vance said on Friday. Officials from Ukraine, the U.S., and several European nations are expected to meet in Switzerland on Sunday to discuss the proposal in more detail. Ooh, Hattie, so what do you all have to say about it all? Because I find it absolutely nefarious. Okay, Trump's trying to get this man to sell out his own people. I'll be darned. Okay? And then you heard what Trump said. I know I showed you a video yesterday where Trump said that basically he said, I told him before he needs to take the deal. He should have taken the deal 2 years ago. Remember that? And then he went back and referenced what he said to Zelensky in the White House. Okay, it's all so nefarious. Okay, so sorry, beloveds, I was talking to someone. Now, with that all being said, I find it all so interesting. Okay, I find it all so interesting. Trump knows darn well he couldn't have come up with that on his own. Okay, D Major said once again, it's all about Trump. Exactly. Exactly. So Sister said criminal in office, no honesty detected at all. Okay. Jerron says Trump is afraid of Putin, as some of his supporters have started saying. Yeah, exactly. Because Putin, obviously, in my opinion, has some sort of dirt on Trump. I think that he has something on Trump. Okay, for Trump to be just bowing down and kissing the ring so very often. But anyway, what do I know? So listen to this. So you all know that they have the Department of Education, that is, they've now decided to classify a new list of degrees as professional or non-professional. So what the new non-professional degree classification really means for your loans, your student loans. Let's get into it. Now, a major overhaul of federal loan policy is underway as the Department of Education begins implementing provisions from President Donald Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill. A key element of the plan now ties loan availability to whether a degree is formally categorized as professional. Are y'all listening? A change that is prompting confusion and frustration among students and institutions. Now, rising tuition costs have already placed considerable pressure on graduate and professional students, with the updated classifications removing several long-standing professional fields. Many worry that graduate education will become far less accessible for individuals pursuing careers in essential public service roles. So the repayment assistance plan. Okay, so they talk about how loan access will change under this new system. Okay, so this is going to be interesting. Thank God I already graduated college years ago. Okay, because this is probably going to be a whole lot of trouble for people that want to go to college in the future. The repayment assistance plan will replace existing federal programs, including the elimination of Grad Plus loans. Now, graduate students will face a new annual borrowing limit of $20,500 unless their program is designated as professional. Do you all hear this? In which case the cap increases to $50,000 per year. Now, the stakes are therefore high for fields excluded from the professional list. Notably, several major healthcare disciplines are no longer recognized as professional degrees. Let's talk about which ones they are. Nursing, physician assistance training, physical therapy, and audiology in fall or all fall outside the new classification. Really? Nursing? Do you hear this? How is nursing not a professional degree? Nursing, physician assistance training, physical therapy, and audiology all fall outside of the new classification. Now they say other excluded programs include now where do y'all hear this? This is absolutely crazy. Other excluded programs include architecture, accounting, education, and social work, along with fields such as business master's degrees, engineering, counseling, and therapy programs, and speech pathology. This is absolutely nefarious. Do you all hear this? Do you all hear this? This is absolutely crazy. Okay. D Major said they're joking, right? No, they're not. That's the scary part of it all. Wow, this is absolutely crazy. But let me continue. They say professional organizations have expressed strong objections, arguing that these exclusions could discourage students from entering already understaffed areas. The American Association of Colleges of Nursing has launched a petition urging the Department of Education to reinstate nursing as a professional discipline to help sustain the national healthcare workforce. Under federal regulations, a professional degree is defined as one that prepares students to begin practice in a licensed or regulated profession. These programs typically require at least 6 years of higher education, including advanced baccalaureate study, and must align with specific CIP codes outlined in federal rules. List of degrees no longer classified as professional. Accountants. Hold on. Accountants, architects, educators, nursing. Well, I already read you the list. Then the ones that are considered professional. Let's talk about those. They say chiropractic. Now, I find that interesting because chiropractors are usually scammers, in my opinion, and liars who inflate medical injuries for more insurance payouts. So they're professional, but nurses are not. Because to me, a chiropractor is more or less a fake doctor. Now, that's just my opinion. No shade to chiropractors, but all shade, clearly. Okay, so chiropractic, clinical psychology, dentistry, what? Law? Excuse me? Did they really say law? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm getting confused. These are the ones considered professional. Okay, so medicine, optometry, okay, pharmacy, podiatry, theology, and veterinary medicine. Do y'all hear this? And clinical psychology, if I didn't say that one. Optometry, osteopathic medicine as well. Okay, I'm sorry. And DJ Big Six said chiropractors can help. Yeah, they can. They usually help getting bigger payouts from insurance companies, like I said. Okay. When else do people usually go to them? Not very often, other than those occasions. Now, they do help with other things, of course. I'm just saying they are professional, in my opinion. But at the end of the day, if I had to choose between a chiropractor, a regular physician, or a nurse, I'm going to choose the regular physician or the nurse. Okay. So, uh, D Major said chiropractors are important, though. Okay, D Major. Okay, I get it. Either you're a chiropractor yourself or you have back problems. Which one is it, sir? Because you're going hard in the paint to make the queen say they're professional and that they're important. Yes, they are kind, they are smart, they are intelligent, and they is important. Okay? Is that all right? Now let me continue, honey, because I find this also egregious. Like, this is really crazy. But what I would say is that my degree is not on here for either the unprofessional or the professional. Okay. Well, since I did go to school for criminal justice, which falls under law, I would suggest that it is professional. But also, I have my PhD in public administration. Okay. They don't have that one listed, but I'm pretty sure that one's professional. I guess they're trying to say some of y'all wasted y'all's money on y'all's degrees, more or less. Mm-mm-mm. I absolutely cannot. Okay. So Sister said, Queen, you too funny. They is kind and smart. Really, because he was getting on me for saying anything other than that, beloved. So I had to backpedal. Okay, now with that all being said, let's continue. Let's continue because what we have to now talk about is, and y'all know, excuse me if I burst out into laughter or even song as I talk about this case, this segment, because this is very interesting to me, as you all know, and I get such satisfaction when discussing it. The very fact that Lindsay Halligan, Pam Bondi, and Trump all look like complete idiots because of this whole James Comey indictment. Let's talk about it because, of course, James Comey filed for a dismissal. Okay, this could lead, as I told you all, to Pam Bondi having some future problems, and as well as Lindsay Halligan. And all Lindsay Halligan really had to do, in my opinion, because I really feel like the judge gave her some grace. I feel like the judge gave her a legit opportunity to confess and explain what she did. And so, but she instead chose to just continue with her nefariousness, okay, which was to lie. So let's talk about it, because here's the thing. We do know that the judges have all gone in on them. We had Judge Curry, we had Judge Fitzpatrick, and then Maganoff. I believe that's the judge's name. Nagmanoff. That's it. Nakmanoff. Judge Nakmanoff. They all have had questions about this, and rightfully so. So, the DOJ admitted that the full grand jury never reviewed the final version of the indictment. I told you all that, okay, last week, how Lindsay tried to pull a fast one. Okay, the judge noticed that something was missing and told her so, and then asked for all of the information. That's when they had no choice but to go ahead and admit that the grand jury in its entirety never saw or reviewed the second indictment. Okay? According to reports, remember, only the foreperson and possibly another juror, just one, signed the revised 2-count indictment that she submitted to the court. And that can't fly, because in fact, 12 grand jury members have to sign off on it, okay? Not just one or two. And Lindsay Halligan knows that, okay? And so that's what's been alleged, that only the foreperson and one other juror possibly signed it. And if that's true, this could mean the required number of jurors never approved the operative indictment. Okay, and this is a serious procedural defect that undermines the legitimacy of the true bill. So guess what? A judge is likely going to dismiss the indictment on that basis alone. And if they find that the grand jury process was fundamentally flawed, well, Lindsay, you just might be in a whole heap of trouble, beloved. Okay, that your looks, nice as they are, won't be able to get you out. Okay? And a magistrate judge had already flagged profound investigative missteps. Okay, remember about how the case was handled, about possible misuse of privileged communications. Don't forget how the agent who testified, I believe it was agent number 3, supposedly saw some privileged attorney-client information. Now, they could have easily rectified that mistake by simply getting another agent to testify as a witness rather than the one that saw the information. But they likely didn't do that because they likely couldn't do that because likely no other agent was foolish enough to get up there and lie. Okay, or get up there and repeat what they were told, which they probably felt were lies or knew were lies. Okay, so that's the issue right there. And so, this is not going to be good in the long run. Okay, there's also the potential argument of vindictive or selective prosecution, as I reported to you all weeks ago as well, because Comey's team argues this is politically motivated. It's all tied to Trump's, his disdain toward James Comey. And if that is proven, that could persuade a court that the prosecution should absolutely be thrown out and never should have brought forth in the first place. And could also make Lindsay Halligan and Pam Bondi look a whole lot worse. Okay. Now, and another thing, according to Comey's attorneys in the indictment, or if the indictment was valid or invalid due to procedural flaws, then the statute of limitations for the charged crimes have already expired. Because remember, I told you Pam Bondi tried to pull a slick one and go back and retroactively sign it, okay, when the statute of limitations had already gone past. So they think they're slick. They're doing all of these little shenanigans, but they keep getting caught up and tripping over their own feet, so to speak. So if the court agrees the original or true indictment was never properly returned, Comey's team could argue that the window of the time frame for bringing charges is closed already, barring a valid re-indictment. So they won't be able to go back and, draw up another one. And how mad do y'all think Trump's going to be about all this? Yikes. Remember how he called Pam Bondi out, put her on blast about this whole thing? Yeah, he's really going to be livid, as I'm sure he already is. But, the judge has already ordered that the DOJ hand over all grand jury materials to the defense, citing serious concerns. And if disclosed, that material could give Comey's attorneys much more ammunition to argue misconduct. And guess what? That's exactly what it's going to give them. And that's why they don't want to give them any information. Okay, that's why they don't want to hand it over. So anyway, and then let's talk about Judge Michael Nachmanoff. Now, this is the judge who, in a hearing, questioned prosecutors about whether the case was politically motivated as well. And he even pointed out the timing of Lindsay Halligan, okay, the acting U.S. attorney who brought the case, even though she's not qualified to even have brought it. Okay, he pointed out that it was kind of interesting that she was able to do all of this when she was just appointed days before she presented to the grand jury. Okay, like what was it, like 2 or 3 days before? Okay, like how do you get a case together that quick? The judge had questions clearly. Like he asked, what independent evaluation could she have done in that time period? He also indicated that he may take Comey's claims of, disdain seriously, noting the weighty and complex nature of the issues. And then there was Magistrate Judge William Fitzpatrick. Now, he criticized the government's handling of the grand jury process. He found a disturbing pattern of profound investigative missteps, is what he actually called it, that could have undermined the grand jury proceeding. And he also said that he does not yet resolve vindictiveness per se, but he says the procedural and substantive irregularities could rise to the level of government misconduct that prejudices Comey. And let's not forget how she also lied and told not James Comey, but told the grand jury basically that Comey had to testify on his own behalf, as if he was not going to be afforded the Fifth Amendment, which everyone absolutely is. You do not have to incriminate yourself, and you do not have to get up there and take the stand. So I find it all interesting, like I said. And then another thing is down the line, once Lindsay Halligan gets aired out for all she's worth, which isn't much clearly, once they're done airing her out, then they're going to come for Bondi. Okay, because Pam Bondi ratified and de facto signed off on fraudulent nefariousness. Okay, the indictment that was never seen or approved by the jurors. And again, 12 of the grand jurors must concur. And that didn't even happen. Okay. So how are they going to make any of it make sense? Mail says these women are doing what Trump is telling them to do without even having history. Okay, deal with the laws. Exactly. And, that's not going to help them if they say, oh, the president told me to do it. Oh, I was acting, under what Trump said to do. That's not going to help them one bit, because the thing is, they have their own law degrees and they're responsible for their own actions and what they do or not under their own licenses. So if you know something is wrong, if you know something is illegal, you should know not to do it. Okay? And I'm sure that they want to have lucrative careers after Trump leaves office. And this is not the way to get it. Okay? So, Sister said, facts. Both are unqualified for their job. Pam Bondi and her. Yes, absolutely, they are. Okay, so anyway, this is all a disaster. This is all a whole disaster. And it's only going to get worse. But James Comey, he's absolutely going to get off, because they're going to go ahead and dismiss it. They're getting to that point right about now, because with all of these questions, what do you think the judges are thinking? Okay. So anyway, with that all being said, he also, actually, according to CBS News, when they reported on the proceedings, they said Judge Nachmanoff noted that to succeed on a vindictive prosecution claim, Comey's team must show genuine disdain, meaning that the prosecutor acted to punish him for a protected exercise like his speech. Okay? A protected exercise like his speech. And the judge seemed open to the argument, or at least to considerations if serious enough, but hadn't made a decision or hasn't made a final ruling as of yet. And then another thing too, their job should be marked unprofessional. You're absolutely right about that, beloved. No lies detected, okay? Queen, guess these ladies didn't get the memo. They do not have to follow unlawful orders. Honey, I guess they didn't, okay? Them white women going to be all right one way or another, says we the people. They likely will. Queen Hughes says, knuckleheads hard at work. Right. Okay. Absolutely no lies detected. Okay. But like I said, it's all going to get very interesting. And listen, here's the thing. They had a hearing the other day, right? They had a hearing the other day. And at one point during the hearing, Judge Nachmanoff directly addressed Lindsay Halligan and asked her, he said, "You're a counsel of record. You can address the court." Basically what he told her. And he was asking her to confirm who was present when the final indictment was presented to a magistrate. And Lindsay Halligan responded saying, only 2 grand jurors were there when the final indictment was filed, the 4-person plus 1 other juror. Now, if she's telling the truth, she knows she effed up. And I'm sure she's telling the truth. But she also told him that she also added that Judge Vala corrected the record in open court and the 4-person signed that indictment, is what she said. And then she added that she concluded with a brief, or she concluded that it was brief and that the judge had basically signed off on it by correcting the record in open court. So anyway, honey, sounds like more lies. Now, why this matters in the vindictiveness argument? Okay, let me read this. So they say Halligan's admission that not all grand jurors saw the final indictment is so significant because it undercuts a key assumption on the grand jury process followed standard procedures, or if the grand jury process followed standard procedures. And defense lawyers argue that this procedural misstep is part of a broader pattern, that Halligan was appointed quickly by Trump and may have brought the case out of political animus. Okay, in the court's reaction, they say Judge Nachmanoff clearly took the issue seriously. He said the matters are too weighty and too complex to rule immediately from the bench. Okay, so courts very often dismiss cases due to vindictive or selective prosecution. And when that happens, beloveds, they don't generally discipline the prosecutor. Okay, the court doesn't generally discipline the prosecutor, but bar discipline is a separate process, and that's usually handled by the State Bar Association, not judges. So we'll see how this all pans out. But like I said, don't forget you heard it here first. Comey's absolutely, his case is going to be dismissed. I mean, we all should know that by now. Okay, D Major says Congress should have been marked unprofessional. Exactly. Okay, exactly, beloved. And thank you for your insight into the topic and your contribution to the channel. Peace, love, and blessings. Okay, so D Major says no courage to make a ruling. Well, he could go ahead and make the ruling, in my opinion, but I don't know. I don't know why he hasn't. Maybe he's still reviewing more evidence. Who knows? But we'll know by this week. Trust and believe. Okay, so now let's talk about the military, because did you all know the military has several questions about the legalities of the things that Trump is having them to do? They've been seeking counsel and advice on whether or not the things that Trump has them doing are actually, the orders they're being given are actually legit, lawful. Okay, because remember, they could face civil or criminal liability for following unlawful orders. In case you all didn't know that. Okay, they have questions about their supposed help in Gaza, because the International Criminal Court has basically alleged that this is genocide. They're investigating it for that. And so they have questions about whether, because they gave weapons. In that case, they handed over weapons. So they're concerned about that. They're also concerned about troops being deployed to cities and those airstrikes on those boats. Okay. They're very concerned about all of it, and as they should be, because like I said, ignorance of the law is no excuse. So some of the orders in question involve strikes on alleged drug trafficking boats and deployment of troops, because these operations are usually specifically domestic deployments. Okay, and also, and remember what I told you all. If you all remember what I told you months ago about them being in violation of the Posse Comitatus Act. Okay, and for those of you who don't know what that is, it's basically a U.S. law that prohibits the use of military for domestic law enforcement purposes, like conducting searches and seizures, arrests, unless it's explicitly authorized by Congress. And we already know, because I've told you all 1,000 times before, that Trump doesn't think that he needs authority from Congress. He just goes out there and does things willy-nilly and on his own. doesn't ask any permission because he feels he doesn't need to. Okay, he thinks that he has unchecked and untapped power. Okay, so with that all being said, and which is interesting because the Posse Comitatus Act comes from Latin, okay, and it means the power of the county. Okay, not the power of the president or Trump. He needs to sit down somewhere. Okay, so anyway, they basically created this law back in 1878 so they could prevent the military from acting as domestic or as a domestic police force, which is what Trump is doing. Please pay attention. That's why they're in violation. Okay, a power that dates back to common law. So, but now, mind you, there are some exceptions to the act, such as for a natural disaster relief or when the military is directly authorized by Congress. And in this case, they were not. So they're absolutely in violation of the Posse Comitatus Act. Okay, like I told y'all. So anyway, I just found it all interesting. And we're going to get into it. I'm going to go to this video. I'm going to go to several videos. First, let's talk about when they spoke with the reporter, asked Carolyn Lovett about the when they were basically, saying the Democrats were telling military members to refuse, or they could refuse illegal orders and all of that. And then Trump came back and said, this is seditious behavior, punishable by death. At the end of the day, Trump knew that they were talking about him immediately because, first of all, he knows darn well he's issued illegal and unlawful orders. He knows that. Okay, he absolutely knows it, but he doesn't care because he's a madman on the loose. Okay, that's just the way. The only way to describe him, in my opinion.
President Trump accused 6 Democratic lawmakers of seditious behavior punishable by death. Just to be clear, does the president want to execute members of Congress?
No. Let's be clear about what the president is responding to. You have sitting members of the United States Congress who conspired together to orchestrate a video message to members of the United States military, encouraging them to defy the president's lawful orders.
Our laws are clear. You can refuse illegal orders.
No one has to carry out orders that violate the law or our Constitution.
We have 1.3 active duty service members in this country. And if they hear this radical message from sitting members of Congress, that could inspire chaos and it could incite violence and it certainly could disrupt the chain of command to signal to people serving under this commander-in-chief, Donald Trump, that you can defy him and you can betray your oath of office. That is a very, very dangerous message. And it perhaps is punishable by law.
The president and the vice president, for that matter, have accused the other side of encouraging political violence. Isn't that exactly what the president is doing when he says that members of Congress should be killed?
Why aren't you talking about what these members of Congress are doing to encourage and incite violence? They are literally saying to 1.3 million active duty service members to defy the chain of command, not to follow lawful orders. Every single
can refuse an illegal order, which
but
is
they're suggesting, Nancy, that the president has given illegal orders, which he has not. Every single order that is given to this United States military by this commander-in-chief and through this chain of command, through the Secretary of War, is lawful. To suggest and encourage that active duty service members defy the chain of command is a very dangerous thing for sitting members of Congress to do. And they should be held accountable. And that's what the president wants to see. We will hear more about that later. Thank you.
You misquoted Democrats in that video. That's actually not.
Was she mad or no? Oh, this woman is going hard in the paint. Okay, she sounds really ridiculous. Talking about they were told to disobey lawful orders. No, they're not lawful. Okay, and they have every right to be concerned because military law says that orders are presumed lawful, but there are limits. Service members are supposedly taught to disobey manifestly illegal orders. Okay, so that's what they're told to do. And legal experts have warned that some of Trump's executive orders could chill normal checks and balances. Like, for example, an order giving the president more power to interpret the law for the executive branch. Okay, this basically could dissuade commanders from challenging potentially unlawful orders. And that's exactly what Trump wants to do. That's his whole plan. Okay, that's his whole plan. And there's also concern about the personal risk to military personnel refusing orders, even if they believe them to be illegal, that this could lead to disciplinary consequences like court-martialing, okay, if they refuse and if they can't convincingly prove the illegalities of it. All right, so this is very concerning for them. They don't want to end up in a military prison. So, and then, they have removed some of the top military legal officers. Okay, they didn't just have personnel changes, but basically a systemic erosion of legal safeguards in the military. And why do you think they did that? 4-star generals just hired. Why do you think they did that? Because Trump knew what he was planning. Okay. And so basically, those soldiers are just in a no-win situation. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. Like somebody said in the chat, I absolutely have to agree with that statement. Because for one, there could be repercussions. And you already know how vindictive and stupid Trump is. Okay? So without strong internal legal advice, the military's ability to independently assess and, if needed, reject illegal orders, could very well have been weakened, and which it likely is. So that all being said, and here's another thing too that I forgot to mention. So there's this nonprofit, it's called the Orders Project. They claim that they have been getting increased calls from military personnel, okay, asking questions about, the legalities of what Trump's ordering them to do, like the things that I mentioned before, deployment to the cities, airstrikes on those boats, and their role in Gaza as far as giving weapons and all of that. So Nene said Pete Hegseth must be impeached. If they just impeach Trump, that'll be good enough for me. Now let's go to this report about the military refusing these orders. Likes up, everyone, please like and share. Thank you in advance.
Still the Supreme Allied Commander, and this video had been put out mixed with a time of real tension. For example, even if you weren't the Supreme Allied Commander, if you were the Southern, head of U.S. Southern Command that would be charged with an attack on Venezuela if that happened, what would you be telling your troops?
So I'm really glad you asked that question, because I want to get away from the sort of political discussion that's going on now and just get back to some basic facts. The first fact is that we take an oath to the Constitution. We don't take an oath to any president or any Congress or anybody like that. Our oath.
Now, let me say something right here. Listen to what he says. He says they take an oath to the Constitution, not to any president or Congress or anything like that. Now, this is very true. At least that's what they're supposed to do. But I want you to pay attention, because Pam Bondi is supposed to be the Attorney General for the United States, and she is supposed to be loyal to the Constitution. Okay, not acting as the president's personal attorney, as I keep telling you all, is exactly what she's doing. Talking about she can't speak about certain things that her and Trump or the White House have spoken about. She's not going to be transparent before Congress. That's because she's acting as Trump's personal attorney. She's not acting in the best interest of America or American citizens. She's acting in the best interest of Trump, which has never been the role of the U.S. AG. Okay, but let's continue.
Is to support and defend the Constitution of the United States. The second fact that I would remind my young soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines about is that we have a legacy of civilian control of the military. This sets us apart from a lot of nations where if the military doesn't like what's going on, they have a little junta and they get it squared away with military force. We don't do that in our country, and we are famous for that. And then finally, I don't want to attach myself to anything being said on these films, but the bottom line is, since My Lai, the way we have interpreted this is, as a combatant, as a military officer, you are not obligated to carry out an illegal or an immoral order. You simply refuse the order.
Right. I guess, and Tracy, I'm going to get to you in a second, but I want to say on this, General, I almost feel like Democrats are setting this up for there's going to be illegal orders, right? I mean, when you put this out there, have we seen anything that would lead us to believe that this video was necessary?
Now I'm dabbling in politics, and I don't like to do that. I have not seen that. But the fact of the matter is, the training is the same anyway. Illegal, immoral, you are not bound to execute.
Fair enough. I look at this, Tracy, and I won't ask the general to weigh in on the politics, but I will ask you. Twofold. One is it's setting up the dynamic that if there's some major who doesn't like an order or doesn't feel as though it purports with their political leanings, that they then refuse it and they get a 7-figure book deal and are held out as a hero of the resistance, and they will be lauded at congressional hearings and an MSNBC contributorship. The second part, and I think the much more dangerous part, is almost an implicit threat. And I think about CIA officers overseas, a long way from home, working without a safety net. And all they have to rely on is that the United States has their back. And now you have members of Congress basically saying, we're looking for ways to not have your back.
Well, like General Breedlove, I don't love getting in politics, but I'll do it just for you, Leland. So, in looking at this situation, I'm actually very disappointed, to be honest with you, as a former CIA officer.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned, some of us don't have diplomatic immunity when we are overseas. And so a lot of times it puts us in a very uncomfortable situation to, I guess, sort of go against the grain, if you will. And I think part of the problem here is that I worked at CIA under 2 different presidents. One I voted for and one I didn't. And it really didn't matter. And I do have a former colleague who actually did pay the price for doing what he thought was best. And he did go to jail as a result of that, and rightly so. So there are
rightly so that he went to jail.
Yes, rightly so that he went to jail because he divulged classified information because he, quote, felt it was wrong and felt it was morally wrong what had been done. And so the reality is you are not free from prosecution. And so the idea when Elisa said, we have your back, they can't possibly guarantee that. And you are putting these workers in a very difficult situation to possibly lose their livelihoods or be prosecuted. And that really rubs me the wrong way.
Okay, so what do you all think about this? What do you all think about this? I find it very interesting, okay? I find it very interesting that they're being put in this very difficult position. Okay? This is a very precarious position for them to be in as far as I'm concerned. At the end of the day, damned if they do and damned if they don't, okay? Period. And absolutely, there have been cases where people have gone to prison for not obeying all orders that they thought or felt were unlawful. Now, that's a darn shame that the person went to jail, the CIA agent, because they thought something was immoral. And, I have to wonder what that was, because there has been CIA agents, at least one that I know of, and I still have the video in my files, but one that came out and talked about the CIA being involved in the same thing that Epstein was involved in. Okay, came out and blew the whistle on that. So I wonder if that's the one, or if it had anything to do with something like that. I just have questions. Okay, classified information. So if you know something, that's the thing about these government organizations like the FBI and the CIA. If you feel like something is wrong, you have to be very careful if you speak on it, because there was a Black FBI agent some years ago who spoke out about racism within the organization. And he divulged some information in doing so, because that was how he was trying to prove his claim. But he was sentenced to 4 years in prison for doing that. Okay, so I'm just saying, honey, they have all kinds of things in place to where they will not get punishment for their nefarious actions. But the people who speak out against them just might. Okay, so it could be the same way with the military. But let's go to this next video with from CNN. Likes up, everyone, please like and share. Thank you in advance. For those of you who have memberships to the channel, don't forget that today is True Crime Saturday, True Crime Sundays, and the video for today will be starting at 12:35, right after this broadcast.
Wildly inappropriate and potentially dangerous call for 6 members of Congress to potentially be executed or hanged because they issued a video reminding members of the military that they do not have to carry out illegal orders, glosses over the fact, because Trump's reaction was so out of control, that this issue of illegal orders is not a new one. There's this new movie out starring Russell Crowe called Nuremberg. The Nuremberg defense, this is the war crimes tribunal after World War II, was that these Nazis were only following orders. And the Nuremberg defense was resoundingly rejected in international law. Carrying out illegal orders is not a defense because you were being obedient. In addition, in Vietnam, there was a whole debate about carrying out illegal orders after the My Lai massacre. That's when a bunch of U.S. soldiers massacred hundreds of innocent Vietnamese civilians. And their defense, again, carrying out orders, and Lieutenant Calley was convicted. That was not a defense. There was a similar debate after the Kent State shootings in 1970, when National Guardsmen shot some student protesters protesting the Vietnam War. And there was a whole debate about whether or not they had been told to fire. And in fact, a Vietnam veteran friend of mine just sent me a booklet. He's a former Marine, a booklet that he got as a Marine after My Lai and Kent State. This was in 1972. Fleet Marine Force Pacific, understanding the military justice system. And right there, he showed me Chapter 6, Legality of Orders. Am I required to obey illegal orders? No, you are not. Suppose someone gives me an illegal order, I obey it. Can I use obedience to orders as a valid defense to the charge? No, you cannot. So this idea that these Democrats, in just reminding service members that they don't have to carry out illegal orders, that in itself was hideously offensive. I guess people can be offended by whatever they want, but it is not unheard of for service members to be told, don't carry out orders that you know are illegal. President Trump's wildly...
Okay, so no lies detected. No lies detected. And so he mentioned where the student protesters were shot and killed, okay, in 1970. Tell y'all about that quickly. So yeah, that absolutely happened, and it was very sad. Of course, the students were black, okay, because I know you all didn't think that they shot white students, did you? Okay, so yeah, the students were black, and they were shot for protesting the Vietnam War, okay, notably at Jackson State College and Southern University. All right, so please pay attention. And now the Kent State shootings received more media attention due to the students' race being white. But black students at historically black colleges were victims of fatal shootings during anti-war protests, okay? Protests at these institutions were fueled by racial injustices, including the disproportionate number of black males being drafted and sent to fight in Vietnam, and were often met with violence, okay? And some of them were likely listening to Muhammad Ali, okay, who didn't want to go to Vietnam because he said those people had never done anything to him, never called him the N-word. Why should he go over there in a draft, okay, and fight against them? All right. So anyway, that was on May the 15th of 1970. They fired on the protesters at Jackson State, killing 21-year-old law student Philip Lafayette Gibbs and 17-year-old high school student James Earl Green. All right. And so, like I said, it was driven by racism, basically. But I think some white students were killed at Kent State. I'm not sure. Let me look that up real quick. Like up, everyone, please like and share. Yeah. This is how you know they must have been out of their minds. They actually killed white students, honey. I can't believe it. There were 4 white students killed. I thought I remembered somebody saying that, but I wasn't sure. But I definitely knew about the black students. So they say that there was white students killed. Allison Krause, 19, Jeffrey Miller, 20, Sandra Shower, 20, and William Schroeder, 19. Now there was some black students killed also. It was um, 9 students altogether. Or there was 9 other students that were wounded, okay, which occurred during a protest during the Vietnam War and the U.S. invasion of Cambodia. The events at Kent State and the subsequent killings of 2 black students at Jackson State College in Mississippi a week later highlighted racial disparities in media coverage and public response to state violence. Yeah, because they didn't really talk about the black people that got killed, but they put it all over the news about what happened at Kent State, according to this report. Okay, so anyway, with that all being said, lights up, everyone. Please like and share. Thank you in advance. Okay, so I'm about to be out of here because we got to get ready for the next live, which is for members only. Okay, but before we do, let's go to this next video with Mark Kelly talking about Trump and, Trump's threats, calls for violence upon them. It's interesting to me that Carolyn Levitt can go back and say, oh, well, why aren't you asking them? Trying to gaslight clearly and deflect. Oh, why don't you ask them why they're saying that they shouldn't follow lawful orders? Okay, but they didn't say anything about murder, death, okay, or hanging. They didn't say any of those things, which are clearly inflammatory words and dog whistles. Okay, so she sounds ridiculous.
Is like no other. This president has sent U.S. troops into U.S. cities. He's threatened the Insurrection Act to send troops to other cities. He's talked about using U.S. cities as training grounds for the military. And you don't have to go too far back when he asked his Secretary of Defense if they could shoot protesters in the legs. That is an example of what an illegal order could be. And we're concerned that members of the military are stuck in a spot here, and they really don't understand what to do. You get briefed on this stuff pretty early in your career if you're at OCS or ROTC or maybe in boot camp. It was just a friendly reminder that we are a country of laws. And by the way, I don't think there's anything more American or patriotic than standing with the Constitution. We're a country of laws. If anybody in the chain of command, anybody asks you to do something that's illegal, not only should you not do it, you're actually required not to do it. You have to follow legal orders. You are not to follow illegal orders. It was pretty basic. And the president's first instinct is to politicize this, to threaten political violence on members of the United States Congress. On the heels, it's just 2 months ago that Charlie Kirk was assassinated, and he talked about political violence, and now his instinct is to call for execution. My family has, suffered from political violence. My wife, Gabby Giffords, was nearly assassinated, shot in the head at a political event. We have rising political violence in this country. Even the president, two assassination attempts, he should understand that his words have significant weight with the American people, and people react to things that he says. So this kind of language is dangerous and it's wrong. This administration is like no other. This president has sent U.S. troops into U.S. cities. He's threatened the Insurrection Act to send troops to other cities. He's talked about using U.S. cities as training grounds for the military. And you don't have to go too far back when he asked his Secretary of Defense if they could shoot protesters in the legs. That is.
Okay, so with that all being said, Trump is just, low down and dirty, very nefarious as far as I'm concerned, and determined to get his way by any means necessary and doesn't care who he tramples on. And I want you all to pay attention to how everything Trump has done since he's been in office, just about everything he's done has turned into a disaster. And here's the thing, too. every roadblock and obstacle that he has put up and every smoke screen that he has put up in order to distract, to stall and delay the Epstein information from being released, those have all turned into disasters. Look at the whole thing with Letitia James. She's striking back. She's not playing with him. Okay, James Comey. This whole thing is going to get Lindsay Halligan and Pam Bondi disbarred. Okay. And then, not to mention him having these airstrikes and all the stuff he's doing without Congress approval, just doing all of these things. Okay. Airstrikes. And then the most recent one that we just talked about earlier, getting the peace plan from Russia, allegedly, and acting as though this is what he and his administration came up with. Trump, please stop. Okay, everything he has done has turned into a disaster. D. Major Scaling says, what you think of Mamdani and Trump getting along in the White House? I think Trump's an idiot, and I think he's just full of BS. That's what I think. But since you asked, let's go to the footage, beloved. Okay, let's go to the footage.
I mean, he's got views and a little out there, but who knows? I mean, we're going to see what works, or he's going to change also. We all change. I changed a lot from when I first came to office. It's now quite a while ago. It's quite a while. My first term was great. We had the greatest economy in the history of our country. We're doing even better now. We're doing much better now than we did even the first term. And I can tell you some of my views have changed. And we had discussions on some things. I'm not going to discuss what they were, but that I feel very confident that he can do a very good job. I think he's going to be. I think he is going to surprise some conservative people, actually, and some very liberal people. He won't surprise them because they already like him.
And Mr. Mamdani, it sounds like you've had a productive discussion, but just.
But in my opinion, this is all a load of BS. Okay? D. Major said, is Mamdani the Trump whisperer? Okay? DJ Big Six says, how better can you be? Clearly lying. Listen, this is all a load of BS. Trump doesn't even believe what he's saying. Now, he's sitting here talking about this man's going to change. What he's trying to do is appease his base by making them think that miraculously Mamdani's going to change and start doing what they want or whatever. He's no longer going to be a socialist or have socialist views, okay, which Trump has called him a communist and socialist and other things, specifically a communist. But Trump's acting like he thinks this man's going to change. Mamdani, I don't think he's going to change at all. Okay, and I don't think that he inferred or gave Trump any type of indication that he was going to do so. Trump just says whatever he wants to say. And another thing I noticed, this is just like a minute of the clip, but in the full interview, the full report, when I was watching it, Trump basically kept bringing up Bernie Sanders. And I'm like, why is he bringing up Bernie Sanders? But because Bernie Sanders is a socialist. And so that's why he was bringing Bernie up and comparing, Mamdani to Bernie, and then kept talking about how he got along with Sanders and all this stuff. Trump, sit down somewhere with your goofy self. All Trump does is just run game. Y'all know that. Trump runs a game on all his people. That's what he does. It's never anything honest coming out of his mouth or moral or ethical. It's just always a bunch of game, lies, and BS, and him pandering to the people that he needs to do things for him. Okay, and then just saying stuff that he thinks everybody wants to hear.
Days ago, you referred to President Trump as a despot who betrayed the country. You said you would be his worst nightmare and accused him of having a fascist agenda. Are you planning to retract any of these remarks in order to improve your relationship?
I think both President Trump and we are very clear about our positions and our views. And what I really appreciate about the president is the meeting that we had focused not on places of disagreement, which there are many, and also focused on the shared purpose that we have in serving New Yorkers. And frankly, that is something that could transform the lives of the 8.5 million people who are currently struggling under a cost of living crisis, with 1 in 4 living in poverty. And the meeting came back again and again to what it could look like to lift those New Yorkers out of struggle and start to deliver them a city that they could do more than just struggle to afford it, but actually start to live in it.
And I've been called much worse than a despot, so it's not that insulting. Maybe I think he'll change his mind after we get to working together. Yes, please.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and
Trump is exhausting. Okay? Trump is absolutely exhausting. Edwards. Edward, you are wrong for that. Edward said Trump is the Al Capone of politics. Okay? Isn't he though? I told y'all he's running this country like a darn mob boss. Okay? With his low down nefarious self, honey. What are we gonna do? I can't wait for this time to be over. Okay? I absolutely cannot wait. Lord, please help it pass quickly. That's all I have to say. But meanwhile, let's talk about Marjorie Taylor Greene. Because, you know, some people have expressed their disappointment for her resigning. Hold on, beloveds. Okay, you all, sorry about that. I'm going to pull up a couple of TikToks. I just want to hear what people are saying about her, okay? D Major says, I'm not disappointed at all. I'm not disappointed. It's all calculated on her part. Yes, it is. It is very calculated because here's the thing. She's resigning after she's eligible to get her pension. Okay, that's why she's waiting until January the 5th of 2026, because right then she effectively will have been in Congress for right over 5 years. Okay? So they're covered, the Congress is covered by Federal Employees Retirement System, known as FERS, F-E-R-S. So under this, a member needs at least 5 years of service to be eligible for their pension. So yes, it was very calculated, okay? It was very calculated, but you know, even if you wait 5 years, or even if you've been in Congress for 5 years to get the immediate pension, you have to be at least age 62, which she's not. I think she's like 51 or something like that. So, but she's still going to get her pension. She's just going to get it deferred. Okay, she's going to be eligible for a deferred pension, so she'll get it later. Okay. She won't be able to start collecting it until later, but she's still going to get it by waiting until January the 5th. And also, what about her illegal insider trading, allegedly? Okay, allegedly. Because I'm going to tell y'all like this. Listen, somebody had called me like months ago and told me the new scheme. They said that these people in Congress are getting inside information. So when they're betting on the stock market, there's people online following them and betting on the same. Okay, somebody told me this like months ago. They were like, honey, people are making all this money online because they're following what Marjorie Taylor Greene and some of these other people like Nancy Pelosi, what they're all doing. So Marjorie Taylor Greene, for her to be resigning right after she's eligible, she meets the 5-year mark to get her deferred pension. She's already made about $25 million. Okay, yeah, she's on her way out of here. She doesn't care at this point. Okay, she did all of her dirt. Now she doesn't want to be on the other side of Trump. And one thing that I noticed that she said when she gave that little speech, you know, in her statement and all that, one thing, yeah, absolutely. Songwriter Sons is insider trading. Yeah, I absolutely believe that many of them engage in it. How do you become millionaires? There was somebody that quoted, and I can't remember who it is off the top, but somebody had quoted one. There's a quote where somebody said one time that a rich politician is a crook or something like that. Basically alluding to the fact that if you're a politician and you're a millionaire, or you're a multimillionaire or whatever, then you've been doing some shady stuff. Okay. So I find it all interesting. But yeah, it was very calculated what she did. Absolutely. Okay. It was very strategic. So she ensured that she crosses that 5-year service mark. You know, and then some of the critics were saying that she timed her exit to vest her pension. Yeah, exactly. But what they don't understand, the people that said that, they don't understand that though she can vest her pension during her exit, she's not going to start getting it in January. But a lot of people think she's going to start getting it right away. But no, she's going to have to wait because she doesn't meet the age requirement. Okay, so anyway, that all being said, let's continue. I'm going to go to this video. I just want to hear what the people are saying about her out here in the TikTok streets. I'll show about 3 videos and then we're out.
Taylor Greene just quit Congress. You can see the video on her X account or on her Instagram, but essentially she said that she just doesn't believe in the two-party system anymore, that the only people who win in the two-party system are those who can make you hate the other side more. She said she doesn't trust Donald Trump or the Republicans. She believes that they lied to her about running an America First platform, and that she truly was signed up for America First. But things like giving 600,000 Chinese students student visas, or relying on the exploited labor of immigrants, the fact that the average American can't get access to health care or proper food, the fact that we are starting wars in South America and are continuing to drive investment of American dollars into the Middle East. But most of all, she feels betrayed by Donald Trump. So she will resign on January 5th, 2026. She's going to run for president. She's going to try to run for president on some kind of like seemingly combination of like populist socialist platform. It appears that the Epstein files are what finally broke her. The fact that Donald Trump had promised for years that if he got power again, he would release the Epstein files. And then since he got power, has done everything he can to not release them. And whatever she may know about the Department of Justice or whatever's gone on with the files over the last year, broke her. She has been appearing with Epstein survivors. She has been continuing to fight for these files to come out. And now she's made a stand saying she is no longer with Trump. She's no longer with the Republican Party. She quit. Marjorie Taylor Greene just quit Congress. You can see the video on her X account.
Which way the political pendulum swings, Republican or Democrat, nothing ever gets better for the common American man or woman. The debt goes higher. Corporate and global interests remain Washington's sweethearts. Small businesses continue to be swallowed by big corporations. Americans' hard-earned tax dollars always fund foreign wars, foreign aid, and foreign interest. And the spending power of the dollar continues to decline. The average American family can no longer survive on a single breadwinner's income, as both parents have to work in order to simply survive. They know how much credit card debt, six-figure salary.
History picks one of the chief
On own community streets. They can't afford health insurance or practice.
One of the chief architects of the massive income inequality, fueling the very crises that she is pretending to care about right now. She just voted for Trump's big, beautiful bill, which kicks more than 15 million people off of their health insurance, makes the largest cuts to food assistance, which is SNAP in U.S. history, and makes higher education even less affordable. And for what? To fund tax cuts that overwhelmingly benefit the ultra rich, the top 1%. Her vote adds an estimated $4.1 trillion to our national debt. In other words, she voted to strip healthcare, strip food and education from poor and working class Americans and plunge our country into historic debt, just so that billionaires can have tax cuts that they do not need. Remember that.
Standing up for
Okay, and so that's exactly what I told you all. Okay, I told you all that she was full of BS and that the only reason she was doing all of this is because Trump ticked her off. Okay, she was all down for Trump. And really, if you ask me, she's still down for him, because even in that speech that she gave as to why she's resigning and all of that, she literally said that she could likely win her primary, but then the Republicans were going to lose. Okay, and then they were going to lose midterms, or she said she could win her district, and then the Republicans are likely going to lose midterms, and then she would be forced to defend Donald Trump from impeachment. What does she mean, be forced? Okay, you don't have to be forced to defend him from impeachment. You could take a stance, just like she took a stance now with the Epstein files. But that shows that she's still deep down inside, in the pits of her heart, has love for Trump. She still believes in Trump. She still wants Trump to win. Of course she can't be trusted, Mel. I told y'all that when she first came out with this load of BS. Okay? She's still Team Trump. The only thing is Trump is not Team Marjorie Taylor Greene. Okay? He calls her Marjorie Taylor Brown because he said the grass rots. When grass rots, it turns brown. Okay, isn't that what he said? I find it also interesting. Girl, you voted for everything that Trump did. Everything Trump wanted passed and pushed, you did it. You agreed to it. You adhered to it. You were there. You worked in concert in unison. Okay, but now for her to sit there and try to act like, oh, I wasn't with that, and this is just such a shame. And mind you, the only reason she was complaining about the health care is because she said her own children were going to be affected because they benefited from the subsidies. If you all remember that. So that's why she's really upset. You think she really cares about the American public? I don't think so. She cares about her own self and her family. That's what she said. And of course, she should care about her family. But my point is, the only reason she expressed such, animus about what's going on with the healthcare, in my opinion, is because she said it out of her own mouth. She said now her children are about to lose their subsidies. That's what she said. So she's full of BS. Okay, she's full of BS in my opinion. And here's the thing. Like I said, she's going to have to wait to get that pension. She's going to be at least 62 before she can start receiving it. Okay. And because she has a relatively modest time that she was in Congress, just right at the 5-year mark, the minimum that is required, she's going to receive, according to experts, she'll probably receive between $8,700 to $14,790 per year. Okay. Approximately $1,200 a month. Okay. And like I said, she won't get it until she's 62. Now, if she opts not to wait for the pension, she could take a refund of her contributions. But doing that would forfeit her future and annuity. Okay? So please pay attention. Now, the National Taxpayers Union also estimates that if she starts collecting at age 62 and lives a typical life expectancy, which is about 72 to 74, I guess, she could receive more than $265,000 over her lifetime, adjusted for cost of living. So that assumes a 2% annual cost of living adjustment in her benefits. Okay, so she knew what she was doing, honey. She planned it all out methodically. And to me, it just makes her look like a coward. Okay? It just makes her look like a coward. Like, you really just don't want to have to face the fact that Trump is not thinking about you and Trump is going in on you. She doesn't want to face it. That's what it is. That further lets you know that she cares so deeply for Trump. Because here's the thing. At the end of the day, I think I'm supposed to be starting that other live. I'll start it in a second. I'll be a few minutes late. But at the end of the day, she still, like I said, she still has her allegiance to Trump because she didn't care when people were going in on her, when people were dragging her all across the internet for her agreeing with everything Trump said. People were going in on her. And then also, I find it interesting that she had said before that she received death threats, that she was being threatened and things like that or whatever. But she never cared. She was never concerned. But then all of a sudden, when her and Trump fall out, now she's talking about death threats and all of that. Okay? Now she's all concerned, but you weren't concerned at first. Yeah. She's just upset because Trump ain't fooling with her. That's what that is. End of the day. She's not doing anything for the American people. Please don't be fooled. Okay. She's doing everything for herself. Marjorie Taylor Greene. Now, that person said that she's going to run for president. I don't think she's going to run for president. Why would she? Then why would she even think that she stands a chance of winning? I absolutely don't think that's the case. Okay, but anyway, with that all being said, I'm about to conclude this broadcast. I want to thank you all for tuning in. Okay, please like, share, subscribe to the channel. Double check to make sure you're still subscribed, especially if you have not been receiving those notifications. And I'm going to drop the link for the members only live in the chat. Okay, so that if you're a member, don't forget to tune in. We're going to be starting right now. I'm going to go ahead and change the time to 12:45. That'll give me an extra 10 minutes to start. Okay, so anyway, with that all been said, listen, I hope you all enjoy the rest of this beautiful day. Each one teach one. That's how we grow and thrive. Do something productive, constructive, and never destructive. And always remember, beloveds, to keep the Most High first in your lives. Okay, until next time, I will talk to you all again soon. Peace.
Hit him with that flavor. Gold all in my skin, God all in my blood. Kings all in my circle, you touch one of mine and you're done. They show no love for the queen, why you hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans? I got dreams like King Luther, shed blood like Kunsa. You ain't helping my people, I ain't got nothing to say to ya. I want all the smoke like hookah. Talking reparations, America won't be great until they give us compensation. I'm like, I'm the hottest right now. See a bunch of lames out here trying to jock on my style. They be doing too much. I'm the queen, it's too easy. It's like they all at Popeyes, how they be talking so greasy. I just sit back and laugh while these haters get madder. So nefarious how they don't want my pockets with cheddar. I tell them they can do better. These snakes in the grass can leave a bite on your ass, cause y'all be trusting too fast. I got my foot on the gas, other one on they necks. Dropping receipts on haters, you better show some respect. I'm never facing regrets, we only facing the threats. Running through every challenge like a relay, break no sweat. It's a cold game, so I got that blanket with me. Now that my people awaken, ain't no going to sleep. I do not play by my piece, this time I'm playing for keeps. You talking slick, but when I see you like them ends, we gon' meet. And I got gold all in my skin, God all in my blood. Kings all in my circle, you touch one of mine and you done. They show no love for the queen, why they hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans and I got gold all in my skin, God all in my blood. Kings all in my circle, you touch one of mine and you done. They show no love for the queen, why they hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans and I got